Hi everyone, welcome back to Film Ranks. Today I'm going to talk about Sonic 3. So, yes, this has been a long awaited review that I've been meaning to do so much earlier, and I apologize about the wait on this for anybody who's actually wanting to see this sooner because I didn't have anybody to go to the theater with, so I didn't feel convinced that I wanted to see this in theater, and I waited to watch this until it was either streaming or I could rent it. And yeah, I mean, streaming is the optimal way to do it, but you know, sometimes I just find the best method that works for me. So yeah, um, I saw the movie today, June 25th, and I think it was great. You know, there's only a few things I can really say about this movie that I want to touch base with, but overall, I thought it was one of the strongest movies in the well, it's a trilogy now, but there's probably gonna be a fourth installment. So yeah, I think this was the strongest Sonic film, um, and I'm still having some trouble with like the rating for this film, like what I want to give it in terms of its performance, but it was really good in my opinion, in terms of action, in terms of building suspense, and like kind of like going in with an expectation and the film actually meeting that, and to some extent exceeding my expectation. I think for sure Keanu Reeves fit the shadow role really good. He was a perfect voice for that character. I think Sonic obviously was a very like balanced character, kind of like Spider-Man, being quippy but also very serious, like knowing how to balance that. I think the Sonic films have struggled with humor and action for the most part because I think the gags and the humor aspect of the films stole the tone of the film from the first two. And I think the second one was still stronger than the first one. Um, but I still think that this third one was still better in my opinion. Um, it was just more spectacle, but it was also like giving me some Star Wars vibes, especially with the death laser and all that sort of stuff, and Dr. Robotnik just always being able to just steal the show with his quirkiness and his genius, and just being able to be a villain that like doesn't feel out of place. So yeah, I mean, of course that's how it's like in like the TV show, and like always trying to steal the emerald, or some sort of master evil plan. But it really works in this film. And all the characters are great. Sonic's team, um Tails, Knuckles, of course, they're always um like bumping heads. So it's pretty funny. Like, I think Knuckles is a really funny character that he's just like, I don't know, like he just reminds me of Thor, like as a human civilian in a planet where he's obviously like roaming around, like being this very powerful warrior and trying to acclimate with normal people who aren't very violent. I mean, that's a subjective term, but like just in a more peaceful, a seemingly more peaceful, like uh metropolis sort of area, like a city. That's what I'm trying to say. um yeah, I just think Knuckles is just a really funny character because he's like more of a serious character, like a serious warrior type, but he's like also like this goofy character that is always trying to sound cool, but it sounds like just ridiculous. So it's kind of funny. um and Tails, obviously, it's just he always plays his role perfectly as the gadget nerd, and always trying to support Sonic and Knuckles to make the best decisions. You know, his surrogate parents, like the Donut Lord, obviously very funny. I think this time around, like, his character felt like it played that role like, more fluid. It didn't feel like the acting for him and his wife, like, it didn't feel out of place. It felt more like working with the story instead of against the story. Like, the progression felt more natural, and like they had more to do in the film, and that's what made this film a lot more interesting compared to the other two. I mean, the first Sonic, I still think, had like, a lot to I had a lot of flaws from the beginning because of the design. His character design was just really bad, and a lot of people didn't like it, including myself. So, it did have to really show up for itself, even with that. And I think that these movies are really entertaining. They're fun to watch, and it's really just fun to see like Sonic and his team, like, take down Dr. Robotnik, and however many installments are still left, to be honest, and still finding new characters. And but I think Shadow is definitely one of the most interesting characters this time around. And yeah, like, this film kind of leaves you with a little bit more curiosity, even towards the post credits. So yeah, there is a post credit scene. So it's just like, yeah, like, this movie had a lot to offer. So my final rating for this film is an 8.5 out of 10. And I can't really get into it all that much because I would definitely be ruining great parts of the film that I feel like should be kept on screen and not here. So I would say it's a very solid 8.5 out of 10. And yeah, like, it damn near deserves a 9, like, it's really close to that. But more realistically, I would give it an 8.5, just because even though I was satisfied and it met my expectations, it was even, a little bit more exceeded than what I would have thought. It just felt like there still could have been a little more just to really be blown away. So yeah, I think still, though, it still deserves credit for even entertaining me, because I was multitasking, and once I got to, like, halfway to the end of the film, like, I was completely, like, zoned in on what was going on. So it was a true spectacle, in my opinion. And I hope that if there are more films, that it can keep that rhythm going. Like, that's strong momentum there. So that's all I have for this video. I think if you've seen the other Sonic films, you're not going to be disappointed with this one. And I would definitely recommend watching the other Sonic films before watching this one if you've never seen Sonic, to understand, like, things a little more and how they got to Sonic 3. So yeah, I think they're solid, entertaining films. You can watch it with the family, and I think it's a really fun sort of film genre. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.